Well, hey there. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fun Ahead TV. Today, we're talking about this, a 2009 Saturn Sky Redline edition, which is the sister car to the Pontiac Solstice. Basically identical cars, just rebadged and refaced for each particular brand. They're honestly not a car that you see very often, and even in their day, you didn't see them very often. And you might be wondering, well, I wonder why the heck that is, because obviously it's a very good looking, attractive little car, and the Redline has all of the potential to be an amazing sports car. It has an engine under the hood that makes 260 horsepower to the crank for a car that's very light and nimble. So you're wondering, okay, yet again, why is it that no one buys these things? Or why is it that you don't hear about this anymore? Is it just a well-kept secret that nobody knows about? Is it because it's not a good sports car? Or is it some other reason entirely that we never really saw these things back in the day and therefore hardly see them today? Well, we're gonna answer every single one of those questions in this very video right now. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fun Ahead TV. Let's get right into it. So, like I said, this is a 2009 Pontiac, not Pontiac, why do I keep wanting to say that? So, like I said, this is a 2009 Saturn Sky Redline. Under the hood is GM's 2-liter Ecotec 4-cylinder that in this particular application made 260 horsepower to the crank. This car weighed right around 3,000 pounds, I believe. I'll flash the exact weight up on the screen, but the formula is there. 260 horsepower, relatively light car, short wheelbase, rear wheel drive, 2-door sports car with the drop top. That to me adds up to be a pretty solid sports car. So why is it that you see these things so infrequently? Well, the answer to that question could be a multitude of things. First of all, it could just be a terrible sports car. It could have been terribly well executed, but we are going to drive this thing in just a little bit, and we're going to answer whether or not this thing is worth driving, worth owning. But also you have to consider what was going on at the time. Like I said, this is a 2009 model year. 2 years after this thing went into production, something terrible happened. A little thing called the Lehman shock, which happened in September of 2008, which sent the world economy spiraling down like an absolute anvil in a helium plant. But anyway, you get the point. The world economy spiraled down. We entered into a multi-year recession here in the United States and in just about every other country. Bad situation. And what happens to the sports car market during a serious recession? Well, it goes down the drain with the economy because no one's gonna buy an impractical, let's be honest, toy when they don't have extra funds to throw around. So this thing was basically dead 2 years after it was born. So that answers why sales numbers weren't very good over the lifetime of this vehicle. But the question remains, is it still a good sports car? Is it one that is worth trying to buy if you can find one? Can you find them for cheap? The fact that nobody knows about them means that maybe the market for them isn't very strong. So if it's a good sports car, it might be a good buy. Let's go ahead and get this thing out of the garage, and we're gonna talk about how this thing is to drive. Let's go ahead and pop the hood, which opens backwards, by the way, and take a look at that sweet engine. There it is, like I said, GM's Ecotec 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Got all this piping right here running down to a big old air-to-air intercooler in the front of the car here. That's kind of one of the biggest tells of whether or not you're looking at a Redline is that big old intercooler. Coming around to the other side here, you can see we got the battery stowed down there. Fuse box, here's the turbo. Let's take a look in the interior really quick. You have a lot of GM plastic bits from the 2000s, which is kind of to be expected, but also this car was not that severe of a price point. It was a lot of car for the money. The seats are fairly soft and cushy, pretty nicely supportive. The trunk is, for all intents and purposes, unusable. It is utilized to stow the top. As far as luggage goes, it's not really good for that. But with this particular kind of car, you'll have that. So let's go ahead, get this thing out on the road, see how it actually drives. Okay, well, here we go on a quick drive in the 2009 Saturn Sky Redline. My hair is going absolutely nuts, by the way. This particular car is the automatic transmission flavor. Has a 5-speed automatic transmission, basically just a torque converter box, very straightforward. You could also opt in this car with a 5-speed manual transmission if you so chose to. Obviously, I've never driven that car, so I can't really say whether or not that transmission is worth it, but you know, in general, you know, it just kind of depends on what you want, which I think is going to be the takeaway with regards to a lot of stuff having to do this with this vehicle. All right, so as I get this thing warmed up, let's just talk about ergonomics. So I am 6'6", and legroom wise, it's fine. It's not terrible. Shoulder width wise, I do have pretty broad shoulders, you know, I'm a broad shouldered man. No, I'm just kidding. I would say because I'm a larger guy, I do have broad shoulders, and I do feel a little cramped this way. And there's a fairly surprisingly wide tunnel in the middle here. But nonetheless, once you're down in it, it feels fine. You don't feel super cramped or cooped up or anything. Sorry if I'm squinting. I always wear sunglasses in the sun, and I forgot them. Love that. Anyway, so what's this thing like to drive? Well, honestly, it's a fairly responsive sports car. It sinks into a corner nicely. It's got a nice chassis. It does, and it's engaging to drive, and it's enjoyable. Another thing I'm noticing is just how quiet it is. When you're just cruising along, you honestly, you don't hear the engine a whole lot, and that's nice, depending on what you want the car for. So far, I'm just getting the impression that this thing is primarily a grand tourer. The chassis is overall solid. This is a good little cruiser. Nice. So, as we slow down to go under this single lane bridge, let's talk about engine. Coming out from under this bridge, we're just going to roll into it. And as expected, a 2-liter turbocharged engine has a good bit of torque, especially from down low. It's a nice, confidence-inspiring amount of power. That was not bad. I mean, I didn't floor it, obviously, but nonetheless is a confidence-inspiring amount of power. Now, we can sit here and get all analytical about how it behaves in corners at the different points of the corner, like entry, apex, exit, but I'm not going to, because I honestly don't think that's what this car is for. This car is a grand tourer. There's a reason why it had the price point of $26,000-ish when it was brand new, as compared to a similar 260 horsepower car like, say, a Porsche Boxster S of the same time, which was more than double the cost of this car. If we were driving the Boxster S, then we could sit here and get deep about its like nuances in a corner. But again, this car is meant to just be a fun car while cruising down a country road, and it excels at that very well. It's not meant to be a very focused car on a track. That's very apparent by its suspension, which is much more softly sprung than that of a Boxster, and its brakes, which are much, much smaller and can handle way less heat, no doubt. This car isn't the car that you would take to a track day and do lap after lap after lap with. This is the car that you Sunday cruise in when you want to do spirited Sunday cruises, and this car would be absolutely great at that. You've got 260 horsepower, ready to go at your right foot. You can throw the top down. Overall, just a wonderful little grand tourer. And that, I believe, is who this car was for. The people who didn't want the very focused, honestly very expensive track-focused vehicle. They wanted a car that they could just have fun in, but was also a nice ride. Could you make one of these be that of what I'm talking about, a track-focused car? Sure, absolutely. But you'd have to change out the suspension, and you'd have to make the brakes a lot bigger. While the braking feel is good on this car, by the way, when you're just pulling up to a stop sign or a stoplight, they definitely would not be able to handle repeated hard stops from 120, 130 miles an hour.
All right, now it's time to coattail Doug DeMuro just a little bit here, credit where credit's due. We're gonna go ahead and give this Sky a little bit of a fun ahead assessment. Now, rating on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the absolute worst and 5 being the absolute best, we will assess the two main categories in this assessment: daily driver and ripping and a tearing, aka performance driving.
The ripping and the tearing.
So, first and foremost, looking at the daily driver category, broken down into subcategories of grocery getter, commuter, and cross-country cruiser. The Sky gets a 2 for grocery getter. It could do it, but you better have a pretty dang short grocery list. For commuter, it gets a 4. This car is perfect for commuting. Sporty, comfortable, fun, quick, and can hold a backpack in the passenger seat. It'd be a great way to spice up the daily commute to and from the office. As for country cruiser, it's back down to a 2, and primarily due to lack of luggage space. You can choose from 2 of the 3, passenger, luggage space, or top down. You can't have it all. Moving on to the rippin' and a tearin' category. First of all, spirited Sunday driver. It gets a solid 4 in this category. This use case is exactly what this car was built for and is an excellent little Sunday scooter. Next up, autocross. It gets a 4 in this category. These cars are great out of the gate for this use case, and the minor modifications that are allowed within the street class would help make one of these even more capable. I've seen it, they absolutely tear up a cone course. Finally, track day. The Sky Redline gets a 3 in this category. It has heavy potential to be a great track car, but would require some performance upgrades, specifically brake and suspension work.
And so there you have it. That was a quick drive of the Saturn Sky Redline. A fun, well-handling car with a nice chassis, engaging to drive, plenty of power to give you the confidence to pass on a 2-lane road, get up to speed quickly, and do whatever you need to do within reason, and is overall a solid car. So the big question is, who is this car for? I would say this car is for the casual car enthusiast. Someone who wants something that's fun and sporty and drives well, but they don't want to fork out the big money to buy and subsequently maintain a more focused sports car. Is it a good car? Is it worth buying? Yeah, absolutely. If you're someone who doesn't want to track a sports car. So if you are a casual enthusiast, you love going on spirited Sunday drives, and maybe you do the occasional autocross, look no further than this right here. I've seen on AutoTrader these things go for anywhere from $5,000 and up. This particular one would bring quite a premium because it is in fantastic shape and it has just over 10,000 miles on the odometer. So this thing has been babied its entire life. So I'm not sure how much this one would go for. I would say somewhere in the mid to upper 20s, but you can buy a higher mileage example for around $10,000 or less. Get the same engine, get the same vehicle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps out my channel immensely. And please subscribe to see even more super sweet Fun Ahead TV videos coming your way each and every week. So thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Yes, you, I'm looking right at you, and I will see you all in the next video. See ya. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see even more great Fun Ahead TV content, please click the link right here. I'll see you over there.
The ripping and the tearing.